Okay, so in this lesson we're going to look at blocks, and we're going to use blocks to improve these windows, and we're also going to add the lights as blocks. Okay, now what is a block? Okay, so if you're drawing a particular object which is made up of a collection of lines, circles, whatever, you don't want to be drawing that over and over again. If it's something that's going to be copied in multiple places, like these windows for instance, or maybe the doors, then the easiest way is to create a block. Okay, and that will turn a collection of objects into one object. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. So let's copy one of these windows first, and let's just move it out there. Okay, and right click and now if we go to the insert command at the top and we click on create block there, we get this dialog box, which may look a bit complicated. It's really not, don't worry. You just got when these things come up, you just work your way through them. That's the best way. So name, well, obviously we'll call this window, and it's always good practice to give them a number, even though we've only got one type of window. Maybe something's added later, you know, so we'll call it window 01 even though it's the only one. Okay, base point, where do we want to grab this window? This is important because when you bring in multiple instances of this block, this is where it will come in. Easiest way, pick point, and we're going to use, as normal, bottom left corner. Okay, the unit, that's in millimeters, that's our drawing unit, so that's already in there. We shouldn't need to touch that. Okay, objects, we're going to select objects, just draw a window around them, right click. Okay, ignore this box for now, that's the advanced things, we don't need to do that. What do we want to do? We want to convert it to block. Okay, and description, if you've got a big project, you've got, you know, a large drawing with lots of different things, you can type in what it is here. In our case, we've called it window. That's pretty much what it is. I think that's self-explanatory. Okay, so we're going to click OK. Now, remember we copied this out. If we click on this, it's made up of individual lines. Okay, if we click on this, it's just one object now. It only has one base point there. It's just one object. Okay, go back to home, and if we want to move this, we can just move it as one object. So it's much easier to deal with. You can't accidentally grab one of these lines and move it out a bit. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to undo what we did in the previous lesson, just to show you why a block, it's better to use a block. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. I didn't draw it like this straight away because I'm trying to progressively teach you things. Okay, and I'm also trying to show you ways other people may have done something. When you go into a job using CAD, you're going to come across lots of drawings that were, what can I say, just not done very well. Basically, people have all sorts of funny ways of using CAD, and to a lot of people CAD standards don't apply, so you will see things, items which could be a block drawn like that. So yeah, and this is why we put these extra parts in to finish off the wall as well. So the way I would do this now, you can just grab this, copy, just like we did before, and you can put the blocks in. That's not good. And creating them as a block is much better. Again, if these had been different on one side and the other, I would have put a block in and then mirrored. You can mirror a block, yeah, so good. In this case it doesn't matter, but there we have our windows as blocks now. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, if we look at here, we've got our lights spaced out. These lights are shown in the room. We don't have any dimensions or space. They are quite indicative really. So I'm going to draw these as a block again. Okay, so a symbol for a light would be something like, let's make them 1200. Right click, enter. I'm going to offset 100. And I'm going to draw a line there. Okay, enter, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this line and actually make it 1.5. Actually, undo that. I'm going to make it twice the size. Right click, select the midpoint, type in 2, there we go. And then mirror that. Yeah. Okay, hopefully you followed along with that. There's lots of different ways you could have done it, but basically this is the shape we're looking for. Then we're going to create block. I'm going to call this light 01. Pick the point. This time I'm going to use that point there. Select objects, right click. Okay, so now you can see this is a block. There. So we've got we've got 4 lines of these, which are all spaced the same. So if we create this top line of lights, it should just be a case of mirroring and copying. And this one is in the centre of the room, as is that one. These two are spaced. Again, it's just indicative really, but let's have a look. So we can draw a line. Let's draw it diagonally. And this is just to get the midpoint. Again, in this case I'm going to delete these. These are just for setting out. It doesn't matter whether it's a line or a polyline. Straight there. Right click, enter. And we will move this by grabbing the midpoint, and now this is snapping to the midpoint because we just drew this line in anyway really. The midpoint is there. I want this about here. What we can do, we have another one of these snaps called nearest, and that will just go to a line at the point nearest to your cursor. So wherever I put my cursor, as long as it's on a line, it will snap to there. And in this case I'm only interested in getting it in the center this way, so anywhere on this line would do, but I want it probably around there. That will do. Okay, and then we can select these and delete them. Now we will right click copy, we will click copy, select that, right click, and I'm going to do this by eye. I'm going to put it about there and then escape out. Okay, now we're going to mirror this one, and I'm going to mirror it on that window. So we're going to mirror this one. I'm going to use the window as the midpoint, snap on the green line, erase objects now. Okay, so these are our base positions here. Now we can copy. These rooms are the same size, so we can use that. Okay, here we need the middle of this room again, so same thing. We don't need to draw it diagonally. As long as we get the middle, we can do it that way if we want. If you use the nearest snap, remember we turned this snap on for nearest, it can, you're always going to, if you try to do a midpoint, say, you're always going to get your nearest come on, so it's going to be harder. So I tend to turn that off after I've used it, the nearest snap. And now we can get the midpoint and snap along a green line. Okay, and now we can go off a midpoint of there, snap along a green line, and what that will do is it will give us a midpoint in here, in this room. Now we can copy a light. We can take the midpoint here. Now what I want to do is put that on the line there. So along the green line and just snap. And now we know it is in the centre of that room. We can delete these lines. Yep. So these are called construction lines. Lines you draw in just to line something up and then you delete. And there is actually a construction line command, but I don't know anyone who actually uses it. People just offset other lines or use lines and polylines from here. Okay. But this gives us our layout. And now we can just mirror these, select them all. If we go this way, we won't select the walls, remember. If I was to select that way, we would select everything we touch, so we would select the walls. So we will do that way. We can use one of these walls here, the midpoint, on the green line. Erase objects, no. And that's give us our other lights. And now it's just a case of copying down to here. Right click, enter. Okay. So now we have our windows as blocks and we have our lights in. I would have probably been tempted to do the doors as blocks as well, but I think I've shown you how to do that, so that's enough for this lesson. I'll leave it there and join me in the next lesson.